2, 1. And we're live. If you're just tuning in or you're watching this on replay, I want to kind of express why you might be interested in hearing about Catherine Bird or delving more into her world. Catherine is an intuitive channel and shamanic practitioner. I don't often recommend people who call themselves shamanic practitioners, but my experience of Catherine has been so incredibly helpful to me. I don't really know what else I'd fucking call her, so I'm just gonna let her have it. So if you feel that you're particularly energetically sensitive, if you feel that you have a mission which is beyond the personal, if you are highly empathic or consider yourself an empath, if you felt a connection with your ancestors, with angels or guides or galactic beings, if you know there's something beyond the personal, which is guiding your actions in the day-to-day, and you want to be able to come to more clarity about how to utilize that for your benefit, Catherine is your woman. So that being said, I'm gonna take my video off of pin, switch to gallery view, and welcome, Catherine.
Thanks, Michael. Super happy and excited to be here. I love what you're up to right now and what you're creating and doing. I just am really appreciating everything you're putting out right now.
Oh, thank you so much. So
we're gonna get into galactic territory here. And I wanted to begin by speaking a bit about my experience with you at an Open Your Channel retreat. Are you available for this conversation?
Let's do it.
Okay, so I don't know why, but I felt called a couple of years ago to engage with your work with Open Your Channel. And I had no idea what was in store for me.
I'm going to take it off this voice just to hear it a little bit better. I had recently had an experience that was totally beyond my previous comprehension of what reality could be. This was not at the retreat, but I had just, through a medium who's a mutual friend of ours, I'd actually had a conversation with some beings that introduced themselves. I'm going to keep their identities private because I actually didn't get their consent to speak about it publicly and include their names. But I spoke with some beings who identified themselves as galactic entities. And it was a rather in-depth conversation. And I was just like, am I going crazy? Am I nuts? What is this? So I went to Catherine's Open Your Channel retreat and then later did her program. And over the course of that retreat, Catherine helped me to actually integrate some energetic practices that would allow me to tap into that particular realm of consciousness. And I was shocked because it felt at one point during the retreat, and the culmination of it, right? We've done all these practices and we get together in this group experience, and I'm beginning to attempt to like channel this consciousness, and it feels as if like my whole body is vibrating, and this thing was like coming up through me. It felt like this thing coming up through my throat, and then like my vocal cords were being pried open. It was beyond anything that I had experienced before. I thought it was like, okay, so these aliens want to talk to me through other people. But then I went to your retreat. I'm like, no, actually, I am capable of having this experience as well. And it was just totally blew out anything that I thought was possible in reality. So first of all, thank you. Second of all, do you find that this is a common experience with people?
Yeah, I would say two things that you said that were really common are, one, I've had an experience that I can't quite understand fully, or doesn't make any sense, or shouldn't make any sense. And I don't know what to do with. I don't know how to put it in context of life. I don't know who to talk to about this. So that's a really common experience, especially as people are getting more into meditation work, energy practices, medicine ceremonies. Things are happening and things are opening up. And our first conclusion is, I must be totally insane because this doesn't make any sense. But then we sit with it and we're like, well, on some level, there's something inside me that says that this does make sense. There's something inside me that is like, yeah, no, actually, maybe this is a thing. And there's some sort of resonant yes that's happening inside that then we can't kind of put those two worlds together, because maybe we're experiencing something, or we're remembering something from our childhood, or so on, or just something starts happening and we're like, I feel like I'm a yes, this is true, but if this is true, either my whole world paradigm has been blasted open or I am clinically insane. So those are kind of the two choices we generally have.
Without revealing, names of anyone, can you kind of give me some examples of the types of shit that people experience, and then they come to you, or like, Catherine, am I insane? Like, what are some of these things that I'm sure everyone out there wants to hear?
There's a lot, and everyone has these different experiences, but basically, being in meditation work or ceremonial work, or just honestly, just like any time, and having beings come into the room and having them, some sort of energy that's trying to interact with them. Maybe they're seeing it, or they're just sensing it physically, that there's something in the room and I don't know what to do about that. Going into meditation and feeling like I'm being kind of whisked into another dimension, and now I'm having experiences and I'm having information that's coming in. I know for me, I when I first was having a spiritual awakening, a lot of channeling was happening. So it was like energies, beings were inside my body, in sort of a trance channel, fully embodied experience of channeling, which is one form of channeling. And so that's a pretty interesting, weird experience to be having, for sure. Everybody has these different experiences of, I feel like I'm connecting to something. Maybe I don't know what that is. I don't know how to continue, or sometimes how to stop the thing that's happening. That's also the big one.
How to stop.
It's like, how do I shut this off? How do I get some sleep? How do I make this stop? Is also a really big one, because sometimes we have an opening and we're moving a lot of energy and we're having all this connection, and then we're like, well, how do I live my life? How do I function as a human being with the new awareness that I have and these new experiences that are occurring?
Yep.
Yeah.
The how to shut it off one is often a big one for people. And as part of the Open Your Channel experience that I had with you, you had us write specifically like a letter to, or do channeled writing, as part of it. And then you had us make like kind of, I don't know if it was just me or everyone, but like make an agreement with what you are and are not available for, with these, consciousnesses that seem to be outside of us or something. And that's I find that really interesting, because a lot of my work is with relationships, and particularly in non-monogamy. And so you could consider it like you're negotiating relationship agreements.
Absolutely.
I find
it's the same thing. And it's I think, I also am practiced in non-monogamy, and there's generally this idea that somehow we're going to be able to have successful relationships without understanding what our agreements are, what we're available for, what we're not available for, who we're open to, who we're not open to. We're just like, oh, well, now I'm open, right? I'm open relating, I'm an open channel, and just, hey, it's, and somehow,
fuck me, come on.
and somehow it's going to be okay. And this is where I think both in relationships with people and then relationships with energies and spirits and so on, it doesn't matter what you're connected to. Everybody's connected to different stuff, but it's where we end up in a big mess, and we end up, you know, wasting a lot of precious time and energy and get confused and overwhelmed. And it's really the same thing in a lot of ways, because whenever we're working with spirits or energies at all, like even if you're just working with kind of like elemental forces of nature or trees or water or whatever, there's a relationship that you're building, and there's the agreements and what you're available for, what you're not available for, and then also there's the time and attention and, you know, practice of offering yourself and offering your heart to something that's outside of you, so that you can create something that's bigger than you.
So I was going to title this this thing, you know, you can only be in open relationship with, or aliens will only be in an open relationship with you. And it was supposed to be a little joke, you know, it's like you need to actually open yourself in order to be able to have a relationship with galactic entities that you're aware of. But I actually realized that's not true, because from what I understand of channelers, and in particular trance channelers, is that sometimes an entity or a being or some sort of energy will form a unique relationship with a particular channel. Can you speak more about monogamy versus non-monogamy in these sort of spiritual relationships?
Well, here's the deal, is that we all sort of have a council. We have a council of guides that are connected to us. And then generally you're going to have one, maybe two that are like the really strong relationship. So we could look at it as kind of like as a hierarchical polyamory experience, where you have that one relationship that you're kind of living together, and you've pulled your finances together and you're in it together for the long haul. And then maybe you're connecting with other energies kind of on the side, or maybe your partner here, your guide, is introducing you to some new energies that you're now going to be able to connect to, because they have a different friend circle than you do. So they're kind of drawing in some new information for you in that way. So some people are very connected to one guide, and especially, as you say, trance channels will often have like that one guide that they're connecting to. For me, I know that I have some specific guides. If I'm really receiving information, generally there's one guide that I'm very, very, very connected to, who's giving me information. But if I'm doing healing work, I have different energies and beings that I'm actually working with in hands-on healing session work. And then if I'm working with someone, I might be tapping into their guide so that I can give them specific information from that stream of information. And so it kind of depends on the kind of channel you are and the who you're connected to. Like you, for example, surprise, surprise to those of you who are watching this, I'm sure that Michael's super connected to this galactic stream of consciousness. We had somebody else in our group who came to the retreat and then was in the year-long program who's super connected into the angelic forces, and like it's angels all day long. And so we have these different connections. What I've found super fascinating, and I don't know if you found this really fascinating too, was that especially in doing the year-long program, I've now run that twice. Every month we work with different beings every month, but that it actually is possible to get some sort of connection to pretty much anything when you're really understanding the way that you receive information and then making that intention out there.
So I want to back it up a little bit. And I'm just, if there's people who are watching this and are like, what these people are talking about, talking with aliens and angels and shit like it's normal. I, I, I just don't even know what to do with that information. And what I would ask you on behalf of those individuals is why? Why would anyone want this? Why would anyone seek to cultivate relationships with, angels, spirit guides, Jesus, like whatever? Why would they want to cultivate these things? What does it do for you?
It actually, it does a lot. And I think even coming back to our connection here between your work and my work of why do you have relationships with people? Because it feels good, right? Because it feels good, hopefully, if you're in the right relationships, it feels good. You learn new things about the world in general. You learn things you wouldn't learn in any other way. You learn things about yourself you would never learn in any other way. If you aren't in relationships with other human beings, you don't know yourself. And if you have and it stretches you when you're in a relationship with another person, you have to look at your own shit. You have to look at the way you show up, the way you communicate, what you value in life, where you want to go. You start asking those tougher questions of like, what's life mean to me? Do I want kids? Do I want to do this in the world? Where do I want to be in the world? Like, all of these things start coming up when you get into relationships with people. The same stuff happens when you start connecting to guides and to spiritual forces. You start to ask those tougher questions of, who am I? And what's my purpose in the world? What am I here to do? And what kinds of relationships do I want to have? What are my values? What am I looking to create in the world? And then you start to have that support system, just the same as you have your relationship, and you have somebody who's like, I see you, I love you, I accept you, I want to help you with your projects, I want to see you succeed, I want to support your mission, I want to help you grow spiritually and emotionally. The same thing is happening with these guides and these spirits. If you're connecting the right ones, that they're also showing up in that way and being that support system of like, okay, let's get in this together and see what we can create in the world, and help other people, and help you to be a better person, hopefully, in the end.
Yeah. Great, I love that.
Yeah.
It sounds very much like any relationship with the human, the way you describe it. So, would you say that one of the primary functions of your work is helping people come to clarity about their sense of purpose in the world?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of times the people that I work with, there is this element of this, magic that they have, right? And sometimes that we can't see how that translates into what we're doing. And, I know probably for you, I know for a fact that your connection and your spiritual connection, like, people on Facebook might see you as like, well, you're like this wild, wacky, like, super out there. And it's like, but there's something about the spiritual connection that you have that allows you to be even more open-hearted in your interactions with people and with your clients, and really more vulnerable in a way. And that feeds into what your purpose is, and it feeds into how you're looking to support the world and to being a different and better place, and for people to have more love and to more connection and all of those things. And sometimes it's hard to reconcile our mystical or spiritual natures and selves, the things that we're realizing about ourselves and the world, into, oh, what's my purpose? And wow, my purpose might be big. It might be a bigger thing, right? I mean, it's kind of a big thing to go, oh, I'm gonna jump in there and I'm going to I'm going to help people to create a completely new paradigm in relating and in love and in connection, and deal with all of the wounds, really, because like I know what open relating's like. It's like, there's a that's my deepest wound right there. You just put your finger right on it. Okay, great. And so that's actually a really big purpose. It's a really big thing. And I think that a lot of us have those big purposes, and we haven't been taught that we are as magic as we are, that we're that connected, that we're that special, that yeah, I can channel aliens, and yeah, I can call on guidance, and yeah, I can give you this information that you need in order to show up in a better way in your life, because I'm that connected.
So this brings up a thing that I'd like to talk about. And oftentimes when people go into open relating or polyamory, as I did, without very much experience and without a guide who's also done it before and can help you with it, there's a lot of things that can go wrong. So, I mean, like, I got into polyamory and non-monogamy for like all the wrong reasons, you know, and I created some pretty sticky situations in the past, you know, like I would invite people into relationships without having all the conversations that were probably necessary to create success within those dynamics. And frankly, with the wisdom that I have now, I wish that I'd found somebody who was more experienced in that way before I did. I probably would have saved years of heartache and pain. Now, in your case, you're dealing with, and I've seen this myself too, there's a lot of people out there who are like, ooh, I have a spiritual connection, I can do this. And they're like doing healing sessions with people, and these fucking dark entities are coming up, and they're like, I just need to, wait, what do I do? Oh shit, my life's falling apart. I feel depressed all the time. I have like these feelings in my body that I don't know how to handle. I can't stop thinking about this or that or the other thing. And what kind of shit can happen if you go into this work without any like energetic practices or guidance?
Oh man, you can really mess yourself up. You really can, because you know, just like you're saying, I think one of the things you said early on was around how you were kind of inviting people in without knowing what was going to happen, and sort of you know, if you don't have energetic development and you're not developing yourself energetically, learning how to clear yourself completely, and learning how to also source and have your own ability to collect and sustain and nurture energy within yourself, you can be highly depleted by connecting into spiritual forces. It can be very depleting on the physical body, can have a very hard time with it. The energy body can get super gummed up in other people's stuff. Things can get attached. You can welcome in things that you don't necessarily want to be connecting to. You know, there's all of these little places, and I don't operate from a fear space. Like I'm like, there is no fear in this work, and there's also best practices and tools and techniques that make it much easier, safer, and more fun. So yeah, there's lots of places that you can mess yourself up, because you can mess up your energy system if you don't know how your energy is working inside of how it should be working, and all these things. Like you can get what they call like a chi deviation, where basically all the energy is now up in your upper centers, and you haven't dealt with, just like in relationship, right? If you haven't dealt with your personal sexual trauma, and you haven't dealt with your lower centers, and if you haven't like worked on your root, and you haven't worked on your, you know, your mommy and your daddy issues, and then you get all into the relationship, you can blow yourself out. So it is a certain amount of energetic development, of spiritual awareness and context, and also personal development, personal consciousness work, working on you know, just the same as you're like, well, I'm having someone come over to have sex with me because I actually don't feel worthy and I need more love because I don't actually love myself and I need more attention. So I need multiple partners because all this attention I need because I don't love myself. Same thing can happen in the spiritual planes where we're like, well, I need guidance because I'm not enough and I'm not good enough. And I need to connect to this because I need someone to save me. And so there's all of that inner work that has to happen too, which people don't want to do that stuff. They want to have all the fun. They want to have all the connection, all the sex, all the play, all the time without doing the inner work of like, well, what are the underlying motivations that you're doing all this connecting from?
Yeah. And people do often have large resistances to looking at those things. So thank you for doing that in your arena.
Thank you for doing that in your arena.
Yeah. So let's see. I guess one question that I'd like to see answered here that I'm sure other people might be curious about too is so how'd you get into this?
How did I get it? Well, number one, I had a radical, intense spiritual awakening where I was channeling and seeing visions and all kinds of craziness. I was super messed up for quite a while. I had to go into deep training on energy practices and understanding my own energy and working with it and understanding how my own sovereignty, how to say no, how to close my channel, how to work with the energies and the beings that were working with me and moving through me and working with that in healing work and working with that in shamanic circles, working with people, doing work with people in that regard. Following the messages and following all of the things. And then one of the things that really sparked this work of Open Your Channel was that I collaborated with Amateo Ra, and we did a couple of events, week-long events that were called Access Granted, and they were focused on galactic channeling work. And those were pretty significant, big changes for people. And so I developed a protocol for channeling work. And then I've just been, I'm super devoted to figuring out how things work, breaking them down into steps, into pieces, and understanding the processes behind these mystical experiences. So, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. I guess question that people might want to know is if they're interested in diving into this work, or they feel that they've already been doing it, but haven't really been doing it with very much intentionality, where should they start and how can they learn more about you and what you offer?
I'm super easy to find, Catherine Bird. You'll find me on Facebook and Instagram, and my website is catherinebird.com. I do have this next Thursday a webinar called How to Channel. And basically I'm breaking down 4 pillars of channeling, like spiritual development work. And then I'm also giving you the 3 main steps or stages in any kind of connection work that you're doing. And I'm breaking those down into the small sections of what goes into those 3 stages. So that's going to be a free webinar next Thursday. And then Open Your Channel, which is my online course, starts in 2 weeks on the 23rd of February. And that's just like tons of context, practices, meditations, energy practices, live coaching, live teachings, lots of amazing stuff there. And we'll see the retreats in April.
Okay, April. So that's definitely coming up. So this live channeling thing, is that people just find it by going to your Facebook page? Is there a URL they can?
Yeah, there is actually. It's Catherine Bird /how to channel. I will put it in the comments of this thing here, and so you can sign up. And yeah, it'll be next Thursday, and there'll be a replay, of course. So if you sign up, you'll get that.
Great. Awesome. Yeah, and that's I highly recommend checking that out and getting a taste of what this work looks like and determining if it's for you. Ultimately, it's something that, although it was very helpful to me, it's not something that I do professionally or have. It feels kind of like this extraneous thing that I'm like, okay, I'm integrating this in a way because it's helped me tap into divine, or excuse me, my own guidance system, right? It's helped me come to a lot more clarity around that. It's changed the way that I work with and access my own energy. But it's not just for people who want to become professional channels, right?
No, it's not. And I've worked with a lot of people who are entrepreneurs and people who are coaches and people who have jobs, who are not interested in anybody knowing that they do this kind of stuff, and people who are not public about it at all, people who do some sort of healing or therapy work, but it's not something that they would ever put out there, that like, hey, I'm a channel. It's just something that feels like there's a like, oh yeah, okay, there's a deeper connection that I feel like I could access if I only had the tools. And it's
right.
life, no matter what you're doing.
I mean, it's hugely edgy for me to post on my public Facebook.
I know. I'm so grateful that you're like coming out in this way. It's like amazing.
You know, there's still a lot of details that I'm not revealing, but I'm willing to at least actually say that because I know this. I'm not the only person out there who's had similar experiences, and I would say that most people who have those experiences just don't talk about them publicly.
No.
Because they're afraid they're going to be seen as crazy, and I have that fear. I am afraid that people are going to watch this video, see the interstellar background, and just completely write me off.
Right.
Be like, this guy's a nut job. What the fuck? He's on Facebook talking about how he's talked with aliens.
Yeah.
Why am I gonna why am I gonna trust him? Why am I actually gonna want to?
You know, I'll tell you, I hid this stuff too for years and years. I didn't want anybody to see it. I was so afraid that it would happen when I was like in public, or, you know, it would happen in session work for years. I pretended like it wasn't happening, or I would just shut it down or stop it or whatever. You know, I didn't want to be seen as crazy or woo-woo or weird or any of that. And I am super crazy, woo-woo, and weird, but I didn't want people to think that about me. I didn't want to get that. I was ashamed of it. I was really ashamed of having these experiences. And there they were.
And there are so many correlations here between that and non-monogamy, because it's the exact same reason why people don't come out with how they actually like to relate, because they're afraid that their partner or other people will judge them, and they're not going to get the candy that they previously enjoyed somehow, right? Or it's like,
well, we're afraid that society is going to, if you're like, yeah, I'm open, I'm poly, I have 2 partners, or I have, you know, whatever, however I relate, we're so afraid that Facebook and our high school friends and our, you know, our coworkers or whatever are going to shame us and make us feel bad for having the experiences that we're having and being interested in the things that we're interested in. So yeah, it's the same thing. Now we can totally say that talking to aliens is the same thing as being in polyamorous relating.
Or even just admitting that maybe there's something there that you don't know or that you haven't explored that you might actually be interested in it, because adopting a label of a channel or adopting the label of being polyamorous is I mean, sometimes fitting, but sometimes not. But the reality is still there, that I have this capability, and that I have this capability within me, And when I push it away or judge other people as wrong and, oh, that's not for me, what you're doing is you're actually shutting off a part of yourself, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the important thing here is recognizing the infinite capacity of self, and that you can choose successfully to create just about anything that you want to create.
Yeah.
Even if
Absolutely.
it's a relationship with your with your grandmother who passed on or something, I mean, it's like, you can do it. I've seen it happen.
Yeah, I love having a relationship with my grandmother. and it's exactly as you're saying, that we get to be who we are, and these things, opening ourselves up to, this is what I'm interested in, or this is being sparked within me, or this is what I like. It helps us to actually know who we are. And I think that in the end, that's the most valuable thing that we can do, is learn who we are.
Yep. I think that's the game we're all playing. So if you would like to play that game with Catherine, head over to catherinebird.com, or is that right?
Yeah, and I put the link in the comment
check out
here
the link
of the new
down there.
webinar. Yeah.
And if you're interested in working with Emily and I surrounding non-monogamy, you can head to openlovestyle.com. We are running a 7-week course called Working Your Style, which helps you come to clarity on your particular style of relating, whether that's more monogamous or more polyamorous. It's about increasing self-knowledge using the 5 continua of relationship configuration. I know this is like a mouthful, romance, sexuality, attachment, attachment, agreements, and kink. So if you're interested in hanging out with Emily and I and diving deeper into this work, head over to openlovestyle.com, schedule a 15-minute chat with us. We would love to talk with you. So
super helpful work, honestly, really, really helpful.
Thank you, Catherine, and your work has been very helpful to me. So I'm glad to have this talk with you publicly, finally.
Thank you, Michael. And there's no aliens in the program, so you can you can talk to Michael without aliens being involved.
True. Yes. All right. Thanks, Catherine.
Thanks, Michael. Bye.
Bye.